So not only is amber one of my favorite notes, vanilla is even more of a favorite note, and today it's the combination of the two, amber vanilla fragrances. This is part 2 of the amber series. Find out about 20 amber vanilla fragrances coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sebastian and I'm talking about amber vanilla fragrances. I did a video a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week or so ago, on amber fragrances, just a general overview of 20 amber fragrances. If you haven't caught that video, please go catch it. That is part 1. We've got part 2 here, and then a few more parts coming on later down the line. Let me know if you're a fan of amber fragrances and also vanilla, and do you like the combo of the two? And if you have a favorite amber vanilla fragrance, what is it? Put a comment down below so we can find out. So let's get started with the list. It's Vanilla Diorama first, from the house of Dior. This has become a favorite fragrance of mine from Dior. This is an amber vanilla fragrance, gourmand of course, but very ambery with lemon, orange, pink pepper, cardamom, bourbon, vanilla. There's some light chocolatey touches here, but also delicious. Definitely has replaced Feb Delicious. I still miss that fragrance. Maybe they'll bring it back, do you think? But here we have a really gorgeous golden ambery vanilla with citruses and things like that. Really fabulous. If you haven't tried this one, please do. I highly recommend it as one of the best from the Dior Privé collection. I'm surprised that did not go into that new, more concentrated fragrances that they just launched, but maybe they'll do another few later on down the line. But moving on to the house of AKRO, it's Glow. This is a really great offering from this house. If you caught my video on the review of this with a bunch of other AKRO, more recent AKRO fragrances, this is definitely a top-notch release. It's an extrait de parfum, so stronger, but certainly an amber vanilla fragrance with vanilla, amber, incense, and pink pepper. So a bit simplistic like all AKRO fragrances, but this is actually really, really delicious. They did really good on this one. While I was underwhelmed with some of their other previous releases, this really does do a good job. It smells fantastic. I do get a slight coconutty touch with this one as well. There's a light creaminess. I almost feel like there's coconut here, but maybe it could be something else. But AKRO Glow is great. Go catch my video with AKRO Glow and a bunch of other AKRO recent launches. But moving on to the house of OJAR, it's HALWA Kiss. HALWA Kiss is kind of a vanillic, nutty, fruity, kind of a Middle Eastern style fragrance. It's super delicious, definitely amber vanilla fragrance, but it does feature honey here as well. Honey, dates, sesame seeds, roasted nuts, amber, vanilla, pistachio, saffron, cardamom. Really delicious take on that kind of Middle Eastern honeyed, nutty, dates kind of a fragrance. If you like Vanillo from Adamo, you might like this one. They're different, but a similar idea, I think. Nuts stuffed in dates with some drizzlings of honey and things like that. Very honeyed for sure. The honey actually in this stands out, whereas I believe the Adamo doesn't have honey in it at all. So this is much sweeter, but for sure it's drying down to a vanillic amber fragrance. Next, going to the house of JAZEERA, it's La FORET. You guys familiar with this house? I have a video on the channel with Joe. Go catch that. We do talk about this one. I just don't get the name of this fragrance because it's all vanillic amber, but it's called La Forêt, which stands for forest, and of course they have forest animals on them. So do you get vanilla from the forest? I mean, I know vanilla comes from Madagascar. It's connected to, it's not connected to Africa, but it's by the continent of Africa, but I just don't get the name. If you get past the name, which is a weird name to understand, it's a vanilla bomb with a lot of amber and nuts and pralines in there as well. It's so, so delicious. This brand, I'm hoping it'll come to the USA soon. I don't know what's going on with them. I'm hoping very soon. And this is not very expensive either, but the brand has a store on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. I believe this is around 150 euros for 100 ml. It's absolutely delicious, really great. I think that's created by Jean-Christophe Hérault from IFF. But moving on to the house of Plume Impression, it's Royal Bourbon, this one right here. This actually was featured in a mystery box last November, December, last year, end of last year. Really great boozy fragrance with lots of spices, and then also, of course, amber and vanilla here as well. We've got licorice, cinnamon, ginger, pepper, rum, tobacco, caramel, leather, vanilla, benzoin, amber, cedar. Lots going on here. It is a really complex fragrance, but really nicely done. Really, really nicely done. Royal Bourbon has a lot of booziness here for sure, like warm spices, but vanilla is prominent, caramel is prominent, and you sure notice the amber in the base. But don't forget there's also tobacco here to give it that little bit of contrast. The booziness comes in as well. It's a very complex fragrance. So far, the fragrances have been very amber vanilla. With the Royal Bourbon, you do go through a ride. There's a lot going on. The spices, the tobacco, the booze, the amber vanilla together. A lot happening there. And up next, it's the latest from the house of CELINE. It's a ZOUZOU. This one right here. You know, I like this one quite a bit. I just wish it was a bit beefier. When you compare it to something like Dom Paris, that one is a bit stronger, and also Black Tie still is my number one. So these three are favorites of mine from this house. I'm kind of like, you know, going back and forth between which one is number 1, 2, and 3. For sure, Black Tie is 1. But I'm, you know, between Dom Paris and ZOUZOU. ZOUZOU is Benzoin, Tonka, Patchouli, Labdanum, Vanilline, and Musk. Definitely fitting the DNA of CELINE fragrances. And for sure, it's an amber vanilla fragrance. Definitely got amber vanilla written all over it, plus resins as well. Really yummy, though. It's got a bit of a dough-like effect in here. I feel like we're getting that from the Tonka, combined with the Vanilline, the Labdanum, all of it. You know, it's really good. Maybe it might come off a bit like Black Tie. I feel like it's also a bit like Le Lion a little bit, but more vanillic and more vanillic take on it. But ZOUZOU is great. I just wish it was a bit beefier, but sadly we can't have always what we wish for. Next, going to the house of Alexandre J. It's ZAFEER Oud Vanille. So the oud is here in the title. It's not about the oud. For me, it's more about coconut and vanilla. And also in the base, there's amber. But along the way, you will notice the oud. So it's vanilla, musk, oud, coconut, amber, cloves, toffee, tonka, white woods, ylang. Leather comes in as well. So this is another very complex take on a fragrance. Simplistic to wear, but complex. But it doesn't wear complex. It just has a lot going on with the notes. Also, it's very coconutty, I should say, if I didn't say that already. It's got a very coconutty edge, so it's almost like a bit island-like, like tropical, but very creamy and smooth. It's almost like a coconut butter or coconut oil, you know, smeared with a lot of vanilla, because it wears very smooth. And it could also come off a bit sunscreen a little bit as well. So Alexandre J's ZAFEER Oud Vanille. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. But the next fragrance, going to the House of Oud, it's Dates Delight, with a gorgeous looking bottle. What do you guys think of this bottle? So Dates Delight has dates, cinnamon, caramel, honey, sugar, vanilla, and benzoin. So the benzoin in here is acting like amber, but when you're mixing it with all these kind of notes, really creates a very ambery base. And it's a gourmand vanilla, amber vanilla fragrance, and it's super, super delicious. This one is not as sticky. It's a bit more dry. But sure, it's still got that kind of ambery stickiness and caramelly stickiness that's associated with these kind of fragrances. But the House of Oud does some great gourmands, I think, and they did a great job with this one. The dates are almost acting like a sticky resin here. It provides its kind of fruitiness, but mixed in with all the notes, it creates this kind of a sticky amber vanilla kind of a bomb. Wonderful offering from that house. Let me know if you're familiar with these fragrances so far. But moving on to a very complex fragrance from the house of AMOUAGE, created by Cécile Zarokian, its Material. Now this fragrance, yes, it's a vanilla fragrance, 1. It's an amber fragrance, 2. But when I wear this fragrance, it's got a lot of resinous experience. It's a very, like, the resins are alive here. And on skin, you can feel all the texture of the resins in here. But it's tonka, vanilla, patchouli, benzoin, incense, gaiac, oud, labdanum, osmanthus, elemi. So elemi is a resin, benzoin. Labdanum's even a resin. It's a sticky paste. It comes in that form. And then, you know, it's got oud and things like that in here as well to give it some depth. But I think Cécile did a great job on this one. It might even be my favorite Cécile Zarokian fragrance from the house of AMOUAGE. It surely matches her DNA and the types of fragrances she does. This one doesn't get very gourmand. It's a bit more smoky. There's a lot of smoky touches, but on skin, the gourmand touches appears a little more. But AMOUAGE Material, I absolutely love this one from AMOUAGE. created by Cecile Zarokian. Let me know if you're familiar with that one. And then a really great fragrance that I'm obsessed with. This is Les Eaux Primordiales Vanille Supermassive for a kind of a masculine take on an amber vanilla fragrance. It's vanilla, labdanum, caramel, patchouli, elemi, ambroxan, cinnamon, white musks, bergamot, and fir. So labdanum is what really creates the amber accord when they throw in resins and things like that. Ambroxan is a synthetic form of ambergris. They don't smell alike, but that's also used to create an amber base. So when you mix all these notes together, it's a very ambery fragrance. But then this is also very dry and vanillic. It's a very unique take on a vanilla fragrance. I feel like the fir note in here creates a bit more of a masculine edge when you're wearing this fragrance. Do you guys get that? But wonderful, wonderful offering with this one. This is so amazing. That's why I ended up featuring this in a recent Scent Club kit. Let me know if you were a fan of it. You can notice the ambroxan for sure. And again, it's not sugary, sickly sweet. Vanilla is there. Labdanum is there for sure. There's smoky touches running throughout it. But that fir note in this, the elemi, all creating this kind of smoky, toasted, but super sexy experience. This is, like I said, one of my favorite fragrances as of late. A great fragrance. And then going back to a fragrance I discovered several years ago, almost 10 years ago now. This is Lune Feline from the house of Atelier d'Azur. A really, really great amber vanilla fragrance. In fact, there's an extrait version of this one as well. Have you guys tried it? But this is vanilla with Peru balsam. There's cardamom, cinnamon, ambergris. Slight bit animalistic here. It does have a bit of a musky edge, but it's gourmand. It's amber. It's vanilla. It's great, man. This is really great. It does hint at a little bit of other kind of similar fragrances that were launched around the same time. For me, I connected that with a little bit of Vanille Insensé from the House of Atelier Cologne. But this was definitely a lot more animalistic compared to Vanille Insensé from Atelier Cologne. And also a lot more balsamic. Like, it's a resinous for sure. But gorgeous fragrance. If you don't know this one, do check it out. Lune Feline is definitely one of the best from Atelier Cologne. If you're a fan, let me know. But moving on to the House of Tom Ford. Noir Extreme Parfum. Yes, it's an amber vanilla fragrance. It's a really gorgeous one as well. Sonia Constant did a great job with this one. It's Venezuelan tonka beans, sandalwood, amber, cedar, gaiac wood, cardamom, kahili, ginger, vanilla, and so on and so on. But man, it wears great. In fact, this is so luxurious and a great experience to wear this one. I absolutely love it. It's much better than the original. You can go with the original for sure. But to me, I feel like this has been given the ultra luxury experience, especially since it's a parfum concentration, so it's super concentrated. Let's see. It's been a while I've smelled it. So the original has that kulfi note. It's like a pistachio ice cream note. You kind of have that here a little bit. But the ginger and the cardamom here are so pungent and so zingy and spicy. And of course the amber in the base. There's a really golden quality about it. But a really wonderful offering from the House of Tom Ford. Noir Extreme Parfum is amazing. Let me know if you're familiar with it. And what are your thoughts with that one? Do you enjoy the original or do you enjoy the Parfum edition? I think the Parfum is super luxurious and I'm obsessed with the way it smells. But moving on to a house called Attar Collection. It's Crystal Love right here. So Crystal Love is a vanilla bomb, but then it's got a lot of amber in the base as well. So it's a great combination of vanilla and amber together. It's bourbon vanilla, actually. This might remind you of a few other fragrances. In fact, some of these fragrances might remind you of one another, but they all have their kind of unique qualities about themselves. So this is bourbon vanilla, nutmeg, white musk, milk, chocolate, rose, fruit cocktail, tonka beans, and amber. It's on the dry side for me, but great combination of an amber and vanilla together. There's a lot of coziness about these fragrances as well. They act and wear very cozy and soothing and comforting. And also during the autumn months, I think these kind of fragrances are perfect. When it's cold outside, you want to wear these kind of warm and cozy fragrances. So this is Attar Collection Crystal Love. Let me know if you're familiar with this one. But next, going to the House of Papillon Perfumery, it's Bengal Rouge. There's been talk out there that this reminds people of a sweeter take on Shalimar. I can see the kind of the connection there, but I find this to be slightly different than Shalimar. In fact, there's other fragrances that remind me of Shalimar more, but way in the back there might be some similarities. But definitely a gorgeous amber vanilla fragrance. Very sweet though, so if you like sweet fragrances, definitely try this one. It's myrrh, honey, tonka, vanilla, Turkish rose, sandalwood. Creates a very ambery effect here, but really super sweet and more on the artisanal side. Somewhat of a reminder of Shalimar, a sweeter take maybe, perhaps. Oh, yeah, for sure. I also get a little bit cinnamon here as well. There's a little bit of a cinnamony touch in here. But I really enjoy the fragrances of this house. I like some more than others. Like Salome is my favorite. Anubis is a great one. The Tobacco Rose is really great. And then this is probably followed after that as well. Dryad is also good. There's a few that I don't care for. But Bengal Rouge, really wonderful offering. It's sweet though. Be warned, very sweet. But moving on to the house of Byredo. It's Vanille Antique. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. There was a time when I first got this, I was so obsessed with the way it smells, and I also like the concentration. I am a bit bored of Byredo fragrances, but I'm always looking forward to trying other things. This is really, really great. It's an extrait of parfum, so it does have great longevity. It's amber, white woods, vanilla, plum, labdanum, musk. For me, this wears very boozy and fruity, but I feel like when they add plum into the mix, sometimes it adds a layer of booziness, which I quite like. Slightly fruity, but boozy. Really super delicious. I just wish it was not as expensive as it is, but I like the way it smells. That plum is quite noticeable here. But I almost feel like it's a prune plum, like dried plums. There's that kind of characteristic in that plum. It's not very like luscious and juicy. There's no juice left here. But really great. There's a bit of a sugariness in there as well. Gorgeous fragrance for sure. Really, really love that one. Byredo's Vanille Antique. But moving on to the house of Van Cleef & Arpels. It's Ombre Imperial. This one right here. Ombre Imperial. A fragrance created by Quinton Biche. Are you familiar with this one? I haven't spoken about this one much, but I really love this collection, guys. This is a great underrated collection from the house of Van Cleef & Arpels. And they do some great fragrances for sure. And this is definitely a great amber created by Quinton Biche, but more of an amber, resinous, vanillic, and spicy, peppery. Very much spicy. The pink pepper is quite strong here. You can smell the benzoin, the amber, and I love benzoin. Benzoin is very vanillic, but there's also vanilla here, so it's got the amber. Most likely it's created with the labdanum note. But a gorgeous amber for sure. If you haven't tried this, please do. Ombre Imperial from the house of Van Cleef & Arpels. Let me know if you're a fan of that one. Then moving on to the house of Commodity, it's Gold. This one right here. So this is the original Gold when it first launched. Somebody messaged me and asked me if the new version is similar. I can't remember. So this is the original and there is the new Scent Space collection. I haven't compared them, but this is a really golden take on a vanilla with ambery touches. And whenever I think of amber, I do consider it golden. There's definitely a golden feel about it. And of course, I was mentioning the color of the bottle here. And then, of course, the glow from AKRO. I do get that kind of color from the smell. You guys smell and color? Let me know. Or texture? Do let me know. Some people do have that kind of an association. I do. This one is very golden, very vanillic. But also, there's aromatics here and musk. Woods in the dry down. But really golden. Very much a really gorgeous take on the amber vanilla style. But this goes lighter. It's not as dense as some of these other fragrances, and also it's not as sweet. It's definitely not as sugary. I think the aromatics in here and the herbs and spices are toning down the sugariness. But still, it's got ambery touches and, of course, vanillic touches. So that's Gold from Commodity. That's the original Gold. Okay, I've got one more Les Eaux Primordiales fragrance, a favorite of mine. This is Mécanique Intuitive. I really, really love this. Although I prefer Vanille Supermassive, that's my favorite fragrance from the house. This might be my second. This is more like a Wajan style fragrance. I believe this is Les Eaux Primordiales' take on that style. Also Ombre Narguilé. But this is tonka beans, vanilla rum, tobacco, osmanthus, black tea, leather, castoreum, amber. Really, really gorgeous and boozy, and also very sexy. The fragrances of this house, I think the perfumers behind them create really sexy experiences with their fragrances. And the Mécanique Intuitive is one of my favorites. I just hope they make an extrait of this one. They recently did a Ombre Supermassive, which is the Supermassive of Ombre Superfluide. But I would love to see one of this one. Really a gorgeous fragrance. You can recognize the spices, the tobacco, the booziness. It does remind you of Wajan, but it's a different take on it. In the back, there's the leather, the castoreum. Oh man, it's good. This is really, really good. The castoreum might provide a slight animalic quality, but I love that. So if you like Wajan, try that just for kind of a similar experience, but a different take on Wajan. And speaking of Wajan, I've got that here as well. A gorgeous amber vanilla fragrance. This is cinnamon, honey, tonka, benzoin, vanilla, osmanthus, labdanum, ambergris, artemisia, patchouli, and musk. I get baklava from this one, and of course baklava has got that simple syrup or honey drizzled all over it, so I always associate that experience with a golden honeyed experience anyway. So this gives me a baklava vibes for sure. I don't know if you guys get that. It's spicy, it's you know, warm and gooey, it's honeyed, vanillic and amber. I think this is definitely very much a favorite of a lot of folks from the house. What do you guys think? Are you a fan of Wajan? Let me know. Put a comment down below. And the last fragrance I'm going to talk to you about, the last amber vanilla fragrance, it's Nocturna from the house of Royal Crown. Let me know if you're familiar with this house. This is a unique take on an amber vanilla. It's more ambergris here. As I was mentioning earlier, you can use ambergris or resins and balsams and vanilla for sure, but this is more ambergris, but it has vanilla in addition to the ambergris, sandalwood, peony, melon, magnolia, peach, and lychee. And I feel like the ambergris is an ambergris accord and a little bit of ambroxan in here. So it's got that kind of a sexy trail. It actually has a really great trail, guys. If you want something sexy, you want people to, you know, follow you, spritz a bunch of this on. Not one or two sprays, a bunch. And go out. Carry a decant with you. Spritz yourself. You'll get noticed for sure. It's a sexy fragrance. But I wouldn't call that super vanillic. It's not really like a lot of vanilla. It's not gooey. It's more musky, I think. But it's got the vanilla and it's got the ambergris. So Royal Crown Nocturna is the last fragrance I'm talking about. Let me know your thoughts on these amber vanilla fragrances if you're a fan of any of them. Also, do let me know of any that I've missed. I'd like to find out if there's any others. I love this combination of notes. Amber is a favorite note. Vanilla is a favorite note. So the two together, it's an explosive combo. And I absolutely love it. And do let me know, again, as I said, if you have a favorite that you'd like me to find out about. Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Stay tuned for part 3 of the Amber series. Might be a few weeks actually before I get to the next one. But don't worry, I'll get to it eventually. But let me know your thoughts on these fragrances. Put a comment down below. And please like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook. And I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye. So I've got one bonus offering here. It's from the house of Zara, and it's Amber Fever. I did a video on this collection recently. My favorite turned out to be Amber Fever. It's the best one. It's a gooey, syrupy, amber and vanilla combo with a bit of orchid in there. And then it has that kind of ambroxan-like vibe in the dry down as well. So I feel like they're using ambroxan and some resinous amber touches in here with vanilla and that orchid note, which I don't know how much you can smell orchid. But the way this turned out to be really great, it's not that expensive. So if you're on a budget and all these other fragrances are too expensive, why don't you seek this one out? Again, do it ASAP because I don't know how long these fragrances survive. Typically, it's been around a year that the fragrances at Zara survive. So I found this to be the best of the 4 that I reviewed. And if you want to watch that video too, go catch that. And I felt like this was the best in the collection. And my least favorite was the one with the spices. I felt it was really, really cheap. Anyway, this is Amber Fever from the house of Zara. And that's the last fragrance for you guys. See you later. Bye-bye.